That will make it even funnier when they collapse halfway through the season.
And they're going to push Detroit. It's going to be in the NFC North, man. It's going back to the black and blue division. I like that.
Atrocious. Giants suck. Malik Neighbors, love the kid. Great
Love
draft
the
pick.
pick,
There's
right.
no way he's saving Daniel Jones.
Wait a minute. I remember 100 years ago, the whole game of football started because of running backs.
Watching the way he's able to get through the holes. First of all, pause.
Oh, my God. That is priceless.
I'm so sorry for what you just witnessed.
You have a problem, I'll tell you where I live. You can look me up. We can have this conversation. Continue on. Partner.
From Wondery, I'm Annie Agar, and this is The Offensive Line. Welcome to The Offensive Line, you guys. We're here to make some picks, talk some shit, and hopefully make you some money. Also, we might overdo it on Packers talk today, but is that actually a thing? Because I called numerous times for the firing of Joe Barry last season. Sorry about that. All on Twitter, too. It's all documented. I'm Annie Agar, here with our guest co-host today, the one and only Packers all-time leader in rushing yards and host of Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge, the one and only Ahman Green. Well, first of all, we have to address the elephant in the room. You have a full-size R2-D2 and
Yes.
C-3PO behind you. Is that full size?
It's a cutout.
Is that true to scale?
It's height-wise, yes. It's not actual. They do have them. I just came from Comic-Con in San Diego last week, and they have full-size drone R2-D2s and BB-8s rolling around. So I might have to hit them up next time I go. Be like, hey, come here.
I didn't know this about you. Star Wars is a passion, huh?
Oh, man. I'm a geek, nerd, dork, whatever you want to call me.
We could have figured that out from the Gamers Lounge.
Yeah, between that behind me, the podcast and anime, yes, I'm all of those above. And I claim it. I own it as an athlete.
You do.
Where, athletes sometimes I'll be like, why you don't just, you play Madden? They'll be like, yeah, that makes you a dork, man, because you got to press the Xbox, or your PlayStation, or playing on your PC. If you play Madden on your PC, you are a geek or a dork.
Let's talk about your career a little bit. Obviously, Nebraska.
Yes.
Nebraska guy, Big Ten guy. How do we feel about them this season? Matt Rule might turn this program around a little bit.
Yes, he's done that. He's doing that. I'm gonna say, like last year, we're bowling. I don't know what bowl we're going to go to, but we are bowling.
So then you were obviously drafted by Seattle and then traded to possibly the best franchise in the NFL. Played 8 seasons there.
Yep.
Green Bay, what a landing spot for you. You did do a stint with the Texans, which I do want to get into because there's a lot of comparisons between CJ and Jordan Love, I think, that we can talk about. However, I first want to talk about, obviously, running back. Your stint with the Texans, they put a heavy workload on you coming off a season where they really did the running back by committee situation. Yeah. So speaking of that, let's talk about the running back situation in Green Bay.
Yep.
Matt LaFleur, some would say, last season underutilized Aaron Jones, some being me. I said that a lot.
Okay.
And we had that sweet moment for like 15 minutes when Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs were on the same team. That did not last. No. I'm pretty sure, Ahman, there were several games last season where Lil Wayne coming out of the tunnel had more rushing yards than Aaron Jones.
Facts.
It's not okay. Not okay. Yeah. So this is a new situation. Jordan Love, and I quote, because I got to share this with you. He said this past week, he said, just watching the way Josh Jacobs, he's talking about in training camp, watching the way he's able to get through the holes. First of all, pause. Think about what you're saying, Jordan, before you just say this. But anyway.
That's a football. See, you can't avoid that play in talking about football.
It's true. It's true. There's so many terminology.
Yes. And we're on the same wavelength on that one.
Gotta find the holes.
Hitting the gap is like, I just said hit the gap, but that's what I'm doing. I'm describing how a running back, it's a power play.
Okay, the running back situation in Green Bay. How do we feel about Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, that whole situation, how Matt LaFleur is going to utilize that backfield? Because we think he's going to use Josh Jacobs more in the passing game, which I'm so excited to see. What do you feel about that running back situation?
For one, I feel great about it. To have now you go from Aaron Jones is like to Josh Jacobs is like, oh, okay, we stay on that higher level. The next thing is I won't be so hard on him in terms of if he's going to use, like you just mentioned, Josh for a pass game. It's like, wait a minute, Josh can tote the rock too. And the way I look at it is how I looked at it as a player, how I looked at myself. You're a running back. You're there to do everything anyway. You're not just there to do short yardage. You're not just there to catch the ball and run screens. No, both backs can do it. AJ can do it. Josh Jacobs can do it. So now you could create a scenario where you give the defenses problems. Where I remember after games, defensive coordinators would walk up to me when it was me and Dorsey Levens in the backfield, And he'd be like, man, I could not sleep all week because I had to prepare to stop you and Dorsey. And it still was a problem. Jeez. It's like I also
that's got to be the biggest compliment to you. Holy cow.
So you have that problem now with AJ and Josh Jacobs. You have that same situation. I would try to come up with formations, personnel packages with them both on the field to create that same problem, because our game was more physical than today's game. Having AJ, who is 249 or 245 or whatever, and then you have Josh, who's going to lay the hammer. He's not going to shy away from contact. You bring that to the defense. You do what Shanahan does with Christian McCaffrey. You do what Baltimore does with Lamar, what they're going to do with Derrick Henry. Things go the way we want them to see, because I love the run game.
I do want to talk about Love. And I think Love has like 3 highlights last season of using his legs outside the back. I want to see him open up a lot more in terms of that, run the ball a lot more. And I think he can. Yes. He's a big guy. So let's talk about Love. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions about your 2 teams, Texans and Packers. The first one, would you take Love or CJ Stroud? Right now, would you take Jordan Love or CJ Stroud?
I say, for the fact that he had to sit on the shelf for 4 years and watch Aaron Rodgers, that's the only reason I'm going, because CJ Stroud, and I called it. We talked about rookie quarterbacks that were going to have good years. I said, watch him for rookie of the year. I called this last year on my show. So, because when he got drafted, if you remember, draft day will tell you a lot. I think I'll give you all a little anecdote about watching the NFL draft and knowing which players are going to have baller seasons. The ones that cry. Yeah. When you cry for the fact you got drafted in the first round, because I got drafted 3rd round. So I got dropped way down when I ran a 4.17 40 at my pro day. How you run a 4.17 and a 4.18 and don't get drafted in the first 2 rounds? I went 3rd round. So you know what that did? That pissed me off. Yeah. So I had a big rock on my shoulder, chip, that grew and grew for every team that passed over me. Even though he went 1st round, everybody was doubting CJ at his pick. So when you watch that, when NFL draft, when players break down, they're going to have a good year.
That was the whole S2 test situation, and everybody was freaking out pre-draft about CJ Stroud. It was crazy. Like that, the talk around it was wild. And then there's like Will Levis, who just cries because he got drafted super late. But let's do the running back situation. Would you take Josh Jacobs or Joe Mixon?
I'll say I had to go with Josh. I mean, and it's basically because he was on a team that was bad and still shine. When a player at any position can do that, when you're on like one of the worst teams in the league and you still show up and you shine out every game, defensive lineman, linebacker, running back, wide receiver, or even quarterback, tight end, any position, when you're that person.
That makes me feel good. Okay, overall, Packers or Texans in 2024, who would you take?
I think the Texans might sneak up on them in Lambeau. I watched the Texans and I watched us play. I watched the Packers play, and Miko just he has them motivated, and the game plans are just sought out and thought out. There's a plan, and their defense is so nice. It's just a tag up above Green Bay's defense. And I rank Green Bay's defense very high. I love Rashard Gary. I love Kenny Clark in the middle doing their things, and some of the additions they have now too. So I'm super excited about what they're going to do, and they're going to push Detroit. It's going to be in the NFC North, man. This year. It's going to go back to black and blue. It's going back to the black and blue division. I like that.
I love it. That's actually a great segue, because I want to talk about the NFC North more. It is it's probably one of my favorite divisions in the NFL, not just because of the Packers, but it is so, other than Minnesota, it could be a toss-up who wins that division. And I love Detroit, but it's going to be a great year. So here are the odds for NFC North champs. Let's break down each team and talk about the chances that team comes out on top in this intense division, the NFC North. So Detroit's plus 135 to win the division. Green Bay is plus 225. Chicago is plus 275, which is crazy close to me. There should be a huge gap, bigger gap there. And then Minnesota is plus 1,000. Oh, Minnesota.
Hey, they got a lot to work on there. Even though they got JJ
and Kevin O'Connell. Let's start there. Let's start with Minnesota just to get the worst out of the way. If they win 6 games, I think that's a win for Minnesota. It's so bad. Their D-line is atrocious. Christian Darrisaw, they just signed him, which they're lucky they did that. Otherwise, O-line would have been average too. 5th hardest strength of schedule, by the way. If they win 5 or 6 games, that is a win. for them. What do you think about Minnesota?
Going with Sam is a good pick because you got a veteran that's been around the table a couple times, so he can understand. And he's a solid quarterback. He just had a rough go at it. First rounder, remember, out of USC, but just had stopping in places back, where everything was kind of disoriented. Being in his last team, I believe, was Carolina.
Yeah, he was like the designated backup quarterback for a long time. And that's a great job in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. Coming from SC, good pedigree of quarterbacks out of there. So he kind of knows the standard of quality of throws he has to throw, knowing the knowledge of reading defenses. Sam has that. So I would trust in Sam as well. For JJ, it's a good quarterback to be behind to watch and grow.
All right, I'm sure you guys already know the beautiful thing about being a sports fan is there are only like 2 days all year without a game. 2 days. And with so much happening and so much action, that makes almost every day game day at DraftKings Sportsbook. And if you're a first timer, it's super easy to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. That is it. I'm a Packers fan. And it looks like they have some pretty good odds this season, I can't lie. So I'm taking Jordan Love plus 110 to have over 4,000 passing yards this season. I'm also not going to pass up a Packers money line. So I'm going to take him plus 102 versus the Eagles for the first game of the season in Brazil. Go Pack, go, baby. And if you're new to DraftKings, you've got to check this out. New customers bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code TOL. That's TOL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age varies by jurisdiction. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. See terms and responsible gaming resources at dkng.co/base.
Let's talk about Chicago because we'll just go up the list here. Third easiest schedule, so that might be a benefit to them. However, I think that will make it even funnier when they collapse halfway through the season because the Bears will, because that is where quarterbacks go to die.
A true Packer fan. Spoken like a true Packer fan.
And Keenan Allen, DJ, and Rome are not going to be the issue here. Great core. Caleb Williams, though, so much is riding on him, but they've improved their O-line. Montez Sweat came in halfway through the season last year, changed the defense.
Yep.
I think this Bears team has fixed the holes that they needed to. However, the biggest hole is their quarterback situation. And I don't know if Caleb Williams, talk about our innuendos here, will fit in the hole.
I'm on the other side of this. I like him. What I've seen so far. So my question and worry was about when they were talking this last year or 2 years ago, unfortunately, for Justin Fields when he's playing. They're talking about, they're going to draft a quarterback that's 2 years off. Like, my goodness. God. So I was like, what I saw at Caleb at USC the last couple of years, one thing I was worried about was the fact that he had won the Heisman and then the way he was playing didn't match up with the talent on that team because they had a very talented squad at USC. You would have think they would be in the FBS playoff. Easy. Walking through the Big 12 that only has 2 teams. So watching his attitude during that sequence of games during his last year, I say bottom half of his junior year or sophomore year, and then the first part of his the end of his senior year or his last year there was a little bit discerning. But then once I saw him after he got drafted and he's sitting on, he's doing the interviews, but then practicing, I read a couple of headlines where he's saying to players, hey man, pick up your helmet. Don't be, leaving that there. So seeing that leadership come up out of him, that's little stuff where I'm like, okay, he's a guy, he's locked in. He knows his situation. And the new current player today being that between like he got the Heisman already, but then you add in like stuff I mentioned already. You got NIL. So you have, I know he coming from USC. Oh man, he's been paid, but he hasn't lost the understanding of I got to be this type of player because I'm the quarterback. I'm the one calling the shots in the huddle. I'm making the adjustments at the line of scrimmage. And so that's what I saw the little few games that I was able to watch at USC, and then coming over now, he already knows, like we all know.
Well, we talked about Green Bay already. Let's wrap up with Detroit, and then you give me your consensus on who you think is going to win this division. Detroit is the favorite, obviously.
Right.
When they came out strong against the Chiefs last year, totally put themselves on the map. It was a different
100%.
Detroit team. They changed the whole stigma around them.
Yep.
Went on to have that weird overtime game against Seattle, but then they had a great season. This Lions team, the D-line, the O-line, insane. Then they got David Montgomery, Amon-Ra, J-Mo. And this team is so good. And it's hard to repeat. Their strength of schedule is 12th hardest. It's hard to repeat the year that they had last season, but it's possible. Do you see that happening?
Yes. I would say just give or take 1 or 2 losses here. Because now it's going to take them understanding, like, hey, we're that team, and now we got to be that team every game. Even if we got guys beat up, we got a next man up mentality, and then we hold each other accountable. And that's what they did. That's what Dan Campbell, when I found out he finally got the job, I'm like, ooh, he's a former player. He played tight end. He was a dog. He was rough. He's scrappy. And he said it. It showed in his press conference when he talking about biting kneecaps and stuff. I was like, yeah, that's locker room stuff, right? I said, yeah, that's a former player right there. But that's what you need. Now they just got to keep it rolling and just hopefully, like I said, give or take 1 or 2 games with injuries, stuff like that. They'll be good. And
they get Ben Johnson back. With OCs moving around as much as they do, huge pickup to keep him around. So are you taking Detroit to win the division, as painful as it is to say?
Yeah, as painful as it's still up there, but it's going to be a battle. It's not going to be easy. And I could see if it's not them, I could see Green Bay for sure right there. And then the other 2, they're just working things out.
Absolutely. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about, because there are other people on the field that run other than running backs, the rushing quarterbacks. Let's talk a little bit about that. Lamar Jackson came out and said, I don't know if you saw this, came out and said he looked fat and slow, which if that's the case, we are all screwed because what?
I didn't know he said that about himself. I thought it was just the media saying that.
No. Yeah. He watched a video and he said he looked slow. And I don't remember who did the interview, but he was like, do you actually look slow? He's like, yeah, I look a little slow now. So if he's faster than he was last season, we're doomed. But I want to talk to you about the quarterbacks that rush in the NFL. Very different from Mike Vick's time, and Cam Newton's rushing TDs had the record for that. Michael Vick had rushing yards. It's a different era now because we have these dual threat quarterbacks. It's a lot more achievable to have these seasons like Cam Newton and Mike Vick did. And you know a thing or two about rushing because,
of course.
Let's talk again about your record with the Packers.
Right.
Out of these quarterbacks, which one do you think will rush for 1,000 yards this year? To preface, Lamar is the only one to have multiple 1,000-yard rushing seasons, which is a little misleading because it was only 2, but still, 2 is a lot more than 1. So we've got Lamar at plus 500, Anthony Richardson, which is shocking, at plus 850, Jalen Hurts at plus 850, and Josh Allen at plus 950. Out of those guys, those 4, which one do you think, or a couple, would have over 1,000-yard rushing?
A guy who I really wanted to do it last year because I knew he had the body to do it. He just didn't, learn how to slide sooner and get out of bounds faster is Richardson.
Yep.
Because he has the frame that no linebacker wants to deal with. Right. No defensive back. Trust me, I was 220 and guys was like, man, I don't want to deal with you for 4 quarters, bro. And I was 220. I had linebackers. They'd be like, man, stop hitting us, man. Just stop it. I'm like, it hurts. I'm like, why are you playing football, bro? So when knowing that he got drafted at 240, and I'm like, man, I hope the quarterback coach at Indianapolis is telling him it's okay to go out of bounds. For one, you're the QB. We won't give you a hard time. Slide, it's okay. But nobody's gonna want to take him on the goal line, or if he has a situation where it's 4th and whatever, and he has to get the first down. No linebacker in the NFL, I know for a fact, want to tackle that at 40. So that would be my one pick of player going over 1,000 yards. And then my number 2, if I had one, would be Lamar Jackson. Easy.
Absolutely. I do a little thing on the show every week where I highlight somebody who is a real man of genius. Let's just listen to this, please. And now it's time for Real Men of Genius. Real Men of Genius. Every week, I'll pick someone who has done something so stupid they can only be real men of genius. Today, we salute you, Mr. Olympic pole vaulter guy. Mr. Olympic pole vaulter guy. Not just because you trained for years for that one shining moment, you put your body on the line. But this Olympics, you showed us that in pole vaulting, every inch really does matter. Somebody go find me a tape measure. You put in the work, you used your head. All for what? To lose gold on a technicality. I guess you could say he got penalized. You even had a custom Olympic suit made just to fit your utilities. Maybe you should have taken an ice bath before. So here's to you, Mr. Olympic pole vaulter guy. Mr. Olympic pole vaulter guy. Go into the fridge and crack open a cold one. Because you may not have won gold, but you still won. Real men of genius.
Oh my God, that is priceless.
I'm so sorry for what you just witnessed. So that's what we do every week. I'm going to come up with a real man of genius. Did you see that pole vaulter situation?
I didn't see it happen, but I see it now, and I just watched it, and that
poor
sucks because I
poor
ran
guy,
track.
but not really. Like all of America.
Right?
Now.
Yeah. The world. This is an Olympic event, so the world saw, and people from his town in France, because he's from France, saw, and they like, oh, oui.
I misjudged. Oh, man. Okay. We need to breathe after that one. So next up, there are apparently other teams in the NFC other than the Packers. Who knew? And after this little break, we're going to discuss / roast them because I can't just talk about other teams other than the Packers without roasting them. Welcome back to the offensive line, you guys. It's time to hand out some awards. So I'm going to announce the awards, tell you what they are, and then we're going to go through and have you pick who you think gets this prestigious award. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
First up is the Road to Glory Award in honor of College Football 25, because there is no road more glorious than that on the way to the Super Bowl than getting home field advantage. That's why we're giving the award to the number 1 seed in the NFC. Our options are the 49ers at plus 300, the Eagles at plus 550, and the Cowboys at plus 700. Road to Glory is apparently different in college football this year, huh? It starts in college now. It doesn't start in high school anymore.
Yeah.
Is that a deal breaker? Do you like the game?
No, I mean, I like the game. Not a deal breaker for me. I just play the game because I live the other parts of the game. They make it as a game mode. I'm like, I'm not going through recruiting. I did that as a high school player. I'm not doing franchise mode. I was a NFL running back. I had to negotiate my contract. I'm not going to do that on a video game.
That's a great point. I didn't think about that. You've lived it. You don't need to play it on a video game.
Franchise mode is so hard for me.
All right. Well, real world again. What do you think of these options, and who do you think will take the number 1 seed in the NFC? 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys.
All great picks. But number 1 pick right now, because I grew up a 49er fan, so 49ers.
Did you really?
Yeah, I grew up on the West Coast.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, my dad
that's true.
Was a 49er fan. He brought me into the fray, and boom.
So I guess I agree with you on that, as much as it pains me as a Packers fan to say. 49ers, fine, get the number 1 seed. We'll upset them in the postseason. Now time for the Dumb and Dumber, So You're Telling Me There's a Chance award. Every year, a long shot team surprises everyone and makes the playoffs. Who will it be this year? The nominees are the Commanders at plus 260, the Cardinals at plus 300, and the Giants at plus 400. This is a tough lineup here.
It is.
But I think it could be simplified too, because I'll just tell you my pick while you're thinking of yours.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Giants, atrocious. Giants suck. Malik Neighbors, love the kid. Great draft pick. There's no way he's saving Daniel Jones. He just can't do it. Cardinals, I try to buy into Kyler Murray every year, and it doesn't work out for me. Maybe great fantasy quarterback sometimes if he stays healthy, but I can't buy into that either. Commanders, on the other hand, I am bought into Jaden Daniels so much. This, and I hate the Commanders, but they totally changed everything around. New head coach, new GM, basically a new organization. Dan Quinn is going to come in. Cliff Kingsbury's there now. And I love Jaden Daniels. I think he has a very high ceiling. And I like Jahan Dotson, another Big Ten guy, Terry McLaurin, and they picked up Austin Eckler. So I am very high on this Commanders team. That is my pick to make the playoffs. It's going to be tough, but I think they have a shot.
I'm actually with you there on that, because I went through the Cardinals. I'm like, oh, Kyler coming back. Team, they just, and then Giants too. I'm like, he playing the quarterback. Give me the money to play quarterback for the Giants, please. Yeah. Give me. I'm 47.
You could come in there and do a lot better.
I was a lefty outfielder. I could throw people out from center field, so I know I could hit a deep ball.
Just toss the ball up anywhere close to Malik, and you'd be great. Let's do a little focus on running backs with this next award. Next, it's the Bear Grylls Award for the running back who's set to run wild and lead the league in rushing. The nominees are Christian McCaffrey, plus 275, Saquon, plus 650, and Bijan Robinson at plus 1,200. Lead the league in rushing. Unfortunately, Josh Jacobs is not up there. That's okay.
I'm looking at the first two. I'm looking at CMC and look at Saquon. And it's hard because I love them both. Because they both, to me, are the well-rounded running back. They run, they catch, they block. They run hard. Oh, man. Like, I'm going to pick this guy only because he's disgruntled, as I talked about.
Okay.
It's Saquon. Yeah,
right.
He's coming out of
that CJ Stroud mentality.
He's got that. I'm trying to prove something because the Giants did this to me. So that's the only reason because CMC, that is my dude.
Just to recap, you guys, we're taking 49ers to get the number 1 seed, Commanders to make the playoffs, and Saquon to lead the league in rushing. Okay, now this is a safe space. We're going to take a minute to talk about a topic. Could be a cold take, could be a hot take, whatever you feel while you're processing what you'd like to talk about. I'm going to go off on mine. So when we do these takes, I'm going to start out by no offense because everybody knows when you say no offense, you're not actually being offensive.
Yeah, they need to stop saying that.
It's just, like none taken. Everything's fine. Okay. So no offense. Harbaugh is the absolute worst. It could be Michigan in general. Harbaugh, though, to me is terrible. And this is not bias, okay? As we all heard, the NCAA came out and banned Jim Harbaugh. He handed him a 4-year show cause for basically talking to recruits when it was restricted and he shouldn't have. It's the whole hamburger situation. You guys saw my Halloween costume this past year. I don't know if Ahman saw it, but I was the Hamburglar, and I had a bag of signs that I'd stolen, and I had a Michigan logo on and a hamburger. Yeah. Anyway, he talked to recruits. We all saw that, but the NCAA just came out and basically gave him the worst punishment for something that's never going to happen. The man is never going to go back to college, I don't think. The NCAA, this is why we can't take the NCAA seriously, but it's an absolute joke. But the whole Michigan organization also, to me, is a joke. Moore, who's now took over as head coach, also had a recruiting violation a little bit ago. He apparently deleted like 55 text messages. And I'm sure it was just to clear up space, right? Because that's what people do. Right? Just free storage on your phone. But this is what the organization has come to. I cannot stand Michigan. I think Jim Harbaugh is the worst. That is my 2 cents on this topic. Your turn.
Wow, that was bouncing in my head, but I'm going to go with running backs and the disrespect that we are getting at the NFL level. And it kind of starts at the college level because then they look at the Cardinals running back and not one, they're preparing them for failure because they'll take a slot receiver and then throw him at running back. And it's like, that don't work. He's 190, 185. When a linebacker hits him at 225 or 240, he's going to disintegrate the running back. So please don't set him up for failure. Make sure the running backs are 210 or above and then can run a 4.5 40, can outrun people too. Then make sure that, you have all the pieces in place. You have the line, you have a quarterback that is a threat because when you don't have a dual threat offense, everybody's going to just focus on the quarterback, because when I got to Green Bay, Brett Favre was in his 10th year and everybody's thinking he was retired. And then I kind of jump-started his career because then, nothing saying to my teammate Dorsey Levens, but when I came in there, it was just another, younger guy came in there running the ball. And so that right there offset defenses. And now defenses had to worry about Brett Favre that still was in a good swing of things. And then myself, that they was like, man, with this kid from Nebraska, what the hell is going on? How are we going to stop him? Now you telling me you can't take a Saquon Barkley. You see 49ers, what they're doing with CMC. You're saying that you can't value a running back? Wait a minute. I remember 100 years ago, the whole game of football started because of running backs.
Put that in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Why do you think that's changed? Why do we undervalue them?
ROI. They figure, okay, my investment into this player, I'm only going to get so and so amount of games out of him. A quarterback, we're going to give them, $100 million. But to the running backs, you don't shortcut them because remember, if you do this right, you're going to have a defense that's going to be beat up and battered every game because they got to stop the run and the pass. If you just all pass, you better have the best wide receivers and the best online and a quarterback out there, which is very rare, which only one place has that right now, and that's Kansas City. So that was my rant. Stop devaluing the running game, the running backs. So there you go. You have a problem, I'll tell you where I live. You can look me up. We could have this conversation continued on. Partner.
I appreciate you being on. I think we've learned a lot about the running back market, the running back value. And I want to ask you one more question before I let you go. The Ahman Green Foundation. Want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. It's a foundation that when I was playing, I did a lot of free football camps for kids in Wisconsin and Nebraska. as well. So since I'm back in Houston too, I might do that as well. But then now I have this whole esports part of what I know now. I've been coaching it for a few years now and have the curriculum to coach basically player development of esports and coach development. And so the one thing, the element that has to get taught to young players is what we've talked about this whole show: accountability, consistency, being a good player, good team, and how that works together, how players manage players, because that's the element. I don't know if you play video games, and if you do, when you were given a system or maybe your PC, you were just giving it to you. Like, here's your PlayStation or here's your Xbox. And then you sit there by yourself.
Right.
But when you're getting handed the football, you're like, oh, you're learning how to play catch with your dad or your brother or a cousin. Or, you know what, is take the ball and bat out there. You're out there with friends where you have a baseball bat and somebody's showing you how to swing the bat. So in esports, video games, you don't have that. So now teaching kids where you sit down with the coach. And then the biggest element of all that is when you lose, because there's going to be a lot of losing, don't throw the controller. Don't get mad at your teammates. Don't get mad at the internet and all that. So that's the biggest part from my point of view that has to get reference and understanding. Like, if you're going to be a great esports player, no matter the game, you got to understand the mentality of it, because you do a lot of losing before you get good. And then the Ahman Green website is theahmangreenfoundation.com.
Well, thank you so much for being on the pod. All right, you guys, that is it for this week on The Offensive Line. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch our full podcast episodes on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And as always, you guys, just remember, Des didn't catch it. See you guys next week.